Minnesota State Senate. Some of you have been here many times before, but we have many who are here for the very first time. For those at home that is watching this proceeding for the first time, we welcome you to the Minnesota State Senate and the Minnesota Senate MAP Caucus Informational Committee hearing. Before I work through the ground rules for tonight's proceedings, we'll start off with introductions from our members. Both representatives that will be joining us, senators that will be joining us going in and out, as we do have other meetings going on at this time. This is just kind of how it's done here at the Capitol, and so you get to witness what happens here at the Minnesota State Capitol. And so that next time when you come here to present your great idea, you will be one step ahead of everybody else, okay? And so to start off, I am Senator Tu Zhang, Senate District 44. I represent 6 cities, the cities of Maplewood, Oakdale, Little Canada, North St. Paul, Pine Springs, and Landfall. I am the chair of the Senate MAP Caucus, or the Minnesota Asian Pacific Caucus. And the MAP Caucus was created to fight for Asian Pacific Islander legislation here at the Capitol. And so I will start off and hand it off to maybe Senator Her and all the other legislators that are here for them to introduce themselves, maybe something a little bit extra about yourselves so the public and our community may get to know you even better. Senator Her.
Thank you, Chair Sean, for your leadership in convening this hearing. Senator Fong Her, my geographic territory is easy. Doesn't have to go to too many cities, just east side St. Paul. I'm one of these 4 senators that represent St. Paul herself. They're Dayton Bluff, if you want to break down, it's Dayton Bluff, Mounds Park, Lake of Payne and Phelan, Sun Rays, and such. This area familiar to you, then you live in East St. Paul. And I'm proud to be a member. I served the Senate here for 12 years now, Senator Hoffman and I came in at the same time. And so there's just a handful of us since 2012 that's still here. And so I'm honored to serve. I'm looking forward to hear the testimony from the people and also an organization that serves Asian American community here. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Senator Murphy. Majority Leader Murphy.
Thank you, Chair John, and my colleagues, and to everybody who's here tonight. My name is Erin Murphy. I serve obviously in the Minnesota Senate, proud Majority Leader. I represent District 64, which is the westernmost part of St. Paul along the river, including Highland Park, Town and Country, Tenoria Park, Marion Park, Summit Hill, and the West 7th neighborhood. And I served in the House for 12 years. I'm in my 5th year in the Minnesota Senate. I'm the mother of adult-daughter twins. I have a puppy at my home whose name is Winnie, and I'm a registered nurse. And I'm really delighted to be with you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Murphy. Senator Pop.
Thank you, Chair Sean. Senator Susan Cobb, representing Senate District 38, which is Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center in Osseo. I want to just welcome all of you for spending your evening here with us at the Capitol. I've been in public office for, this is my 9th year. I can't believe that time has gone by that quickly. I want to just say thank you all for joining us, and especially I want to recognize our elders and our long veterans that are in the audience for taking the time to come. Can I ask that our elders and our long veterans stand so we can give you an applause for having advocacy? We're so fortunate that we still have some of our elders still with us. And I also want to thank all of my Senate colleagues for being here, especially our Senate Majority Leader, Erin Murphy, for joining us today. And in-house Executive Director, Tony Hill, for helping to coordinate this event. Thank you so much.
Senator Hoffman.
Thank you, Tujan and Fawn. You bring up the memory of when you came in 2012, 2013. And I also remember when Dr. Susan Brower gave a presentation about the silver tsunami. It's coming. Well, doctor, it's here. And some of the things that were really concerning 12 years ago was specifically 65 and older and the need for special services, right? And Fawn, if you remember right, there was a huge gap within our Hmong community that did that. We were talking about it then, and it's something we continually need to talk about because right now we're facing some really devastating times on budget decisions. And so I'm looking forward to your report again and the work that you've done. And so you guys are blessed to have Dr. Susan Bauer in front of us. So my name is John Hoffman. I represent Champlin, Coon Rapids, Brooklyn Park, Rogers, Dayton, and a little town about Siegel. It's 23 miles on the Mississippi River. About 10 years ago, Dean Her, who was Fawn's uncle, gave me the name Ming Her. So that's one thing you don't know about me, too, John. I was given the name Ming, which meant prosperity. But I'll tell you what, Susan and folks, right now we don't feel we're in very prosperous times, so we need to create some prosperous times. And it's a pleasure to see Captain Simon Vang here, Fawn. There's so many good things, and I enjoy, I miss our time together when we did everything together as freshmen coming in, but it's good. Thank you to John for inviting me here to this, and it's really a pleasure to be here. And thank you, Captain Simon Vang, your grandchildren and I hanging out at Canes. Nice to see another constituent here in the crowd, Fawn.
Thank you, and Senator Zainab Mohammed.
Thank you, Senator Zhang. Hi, everybody. My name is Zainab Mohammed. I represent Senate District 63. On the other side of Senator Murphy's district, alongside the river, I have Lorena Combs, Minnehaha Falls, Seward, Longfellow, Corcoran, and many other neighborhoods in South Minneapolis and Southeast. It's an honor to be here. Thank you to our members, Senator Zhang and Fong Her and Senator Pa. They really do incredible work of uplifting this community, and I serve many communities with Senator Pa and Trainman with her, and she's been a huge advocate on economic development and making sure that the community gets the needs that they do have. And Senator Fong is our elder here, so we have our own. So it's just really awesome to be here with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Mohammed. And then I wanted to move on to our partner that has helped make this possible. Us senators, ourselves, even our staffs, we couldn't be able to put this on for the community if it wasn't for Tommy and Cal. And Tommy, would you like to introduce yourself and your organizations? And maybe members of Cal might stand up so we can recognize you and thank all of you for helping us put all this together.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and all the senators at the dais. We have depended a lot on you, and we're so grateful for you to host this event today. So all the Cal staff, please stand up, as well as my board member, Emma Corey. Thank you all for your support. And I'll do more of an introduction later.
Okay, thank you. So members, so folks, today we welcome you all to the halls of the Minnesota State Senate. Here is where the policies and budgets governing our state are shaped and formed. Our Senate Map Caucus wanted to use today to highlight policies that are impacting our API community here in Minnesota. We have a list of legislation, and so we are here in an official Senate hearing room. These tables, these chairs, these halls, this is where democracy is practiced. And so for all of you here today, we will conduct this proceedings under the rules of the Senate, right? So we will use the book. But we wanted to highlight your voices to give you an opportunity to tell us as legislators what's important to you, your community, and how we can help make that change possible with the votes that we take here in this chamber. For today's proceeding, we're going to try to give folks a taste of what it's like to be in a Senate hearing. We speak through the chair, and when the chair recognizes you, you state your name, and then you proceed with your testimony. We have a couple of presenters that we will kick off with, but I wanted to note that we're being streamed live here at the Capitol. We also have HBC TV here, some of our main news channel, the media news channel, API news channel that are here to put this live. And so I just wanted to let folks know that this will be public. Our hope is that occasions like today, which does not happen a lot, will be able to teach our community and our youth about how you come to the Capitol and present your idea and make it into law. And so, first up, we will have, just like our regular committees that we have, I'm the chair of the State and Local Government Committee here at the Capitol, but we would like to provide an overview of the state of API community here in Minnesota. And so we have two presenters that will present on that. So our first presenter are the Minnesota State demographer that will come and give a presentation on some of the demographics of our API community here in Minnesota, and so that we all can have a better understanding as we try to shape the policies impacting all of us. And so, to our first testifier, whenever you are ready, please state your name for the record and you may begin.
Mr. Chair, thank you. My name is Susan Brower. I'm Minnesota State Demographer, and I work in the Department of Administration. Thanks for having me here today as we discuss the significant and growing presence of Asian, American, and Pacific Islander communities in Minnesota. It's an honor to be part of this forum, and I hope that I can bring some context to the policy and advocacy discussions that you will have tonight. So let's begin with the numbers. Minnesota's AAPI population reached 376,429 in 2023, making up 7% of the state's population. Of course, that's not just a statistic. It represents vibrant, diverse communities that have contributed to Minnesota's cultural, economic, and social fabric for generations. In 1960, the AAPI population was only a fraction of what it was today. In the 1960 census, there were 3,642 Asian Minnesotans counted. Since that time, of course, the numbers have risen dramatically, reflecting migration patterns, the expansion of families in Minnesota, and the welcoming nature, sometimes welcoming nature of our communities. Within this broad category, Minnesota, AAPI communities in Minnesota are incredibly diverse, as you well know. The largest AAPI group in Minnesota is Hmong, with 95,000 people. The Hmong population makes up about 1/4 of all AAPI residents in Minnesota. Asian Indian, Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, and Filipino populations are also well represented in the state, and the Karen population reported under the Burmese category here by the Census Bureau continues to grow as well, and it's reached nearly 20,000 people. AAPI communities in Minnesota have arrived through various waves of migration, each influenced by different historical, economic, and political factors. Some groups, such as the Hmong, Cambodian, Vietnamese, and Lao communities, came as refugees, as you well know, following the Vietnam War and the Secret War in Laos, resettling in the U.S. to escape conflict and persecution. Others, like Asian Indian and Chinese immigrants, have come for educational and professional opportunities, contributing to Minnesota's technology, healthcare, and business sectors. Many Karen and Burmese refugees have fled ethnic and political violence in Myanmar, seeking safety and stability in Minnesota. So a lot of different stories going on, as you well know. I will just note, too, that I've provided a handout from the 2020 census that lists all of the AAPI groups in Minnesota and their populations. It's sometimes hard to find that disaggregated data, so I just wanted to point out that it's there. So where do these communities live? More than half of Minnesota's AAPI residents, about 54%, live in just two counties, in Hennepin and Ramsey counties. These urban centers have long been the hubs for diverse populations, offering economic opportunities and cultural networks. However, AAPI communities are also present throughout the state. You can see all the way up there in Roseau, AAPI communities represented. I looked up that particular county just to see what was going on there, and it's the Laotian community there that's represented up in Roseau. But you can see across southern Minnesota as well, Cottonwood County, Swift County, many counties across the state. It's not just Hennepin and Ramsey, even though that's where many live. This is a very busy graph, and I'm sorry, but because the AAPI community is so diverse, it's really hard to characterize with an overall number, so I wanted to give you all the details. Beyond, when you aggregate these numbers together, you well know that many communities who struggle sometimes economically.
Oh, Ms. Brower, I'm just going to interrupt you really quickly. Members of the public, we do have handouts of the slideshows in the back, and so you are free to go grab your own. And so thank you. Please continue.
Thank you so much. Some of this detail is lost, and particularly the unique situations of different groups can vary considerably. And so for that reason, I've showed you all the detail that we have with respect to homeownership, but there are similar numbers for income, for other different kinds of social and economic indicators. I'm showing you housing homeownership because housing stability is a crucial factor in economic stability. While Minnesota's overall homeownership rate is 72%, for AAPI residents overall it's lower at about 60%. And then when you break it down further, you can see that there's quite a bit of variation from group to group. The green bars here represent kind of the regional category, so it's aggregated up to a region. These data are more than just data points. They tell a story of growth, of resilience, and even demographers to ensure that every AAPI resident in Minnesota has the opportunity to thrive. So thank you for your time today. I welcome questions and look forward to listening to the discussion.
Thank you, Ms. Brower, for your presentation. I'm going to open up to the members of the committee. Do you have any questions, comments on the presentation here? From Senator Hurd, Senator Pollack, Senator Huffman. Senator Huffman.
Dr. Brower, 12 years ago you showed, specifically in Fawn, you and I sat next to each other, and this bothers me to this day. 65 and older, and you're going to see, especially within the Hmong community, there's going to be an increase in people with special health care needs. And that shows that there's a need for more CAD or elderly waiver services. We saw this 12 years ago. And have you looked at that data recently? Does that still hold true? Is it increased? Because, and the reason I ask this, Senators, this is a pivotal time for us in the human services world, because when we start looking at 65% of the budget deficit is being taken out of human services. That's your governor's proposal on this, right? Our governor's proposal on this. It scares me because I knew 12 years ago, and so did a lot of elected officials who were sitting in that room, we were going to be at this moment in time, and now we're here, and it's almost like there was a status quo. So have you since updated that? Does it look, if you haven't, I remember it was in that room over there, and Jeff Hain was sitting next to Fong and I, and we both, all three of us just kind of, and that is still very vivid today for me. So maybe update on that.
Dr. Brown.
Mr. Chair, Senator Huffman, thank you for that question. We have updated that. It's on our website, which is mn.gov/demography. The economic status of Minnesotans is the report that we update periodically. And I think you're referring to disaggregated data on disability that we looked at. And we saw much higher rates of disability for both Hmong Minnesota residents and for U.S.-born African-American residents. And that's true today. That's something that's been stable. over this time period. So I think what that says is an increased need for some groups for the kind of services you're.
Senator Hoffman, follow.
Thank you, and I knew that, I mean, thank you, that question. Does any agency, since you introduced this and you knew that this was still gonna be happening today, has anybody ever sat down with you from the Department of Human Services, the Department of Health, or administration and said, help us understand what the snapshot of Minnesota looks like? Do you recall, is that ever, and if that's a harsh question to ask, I'm just curious because we knew when you entered this stuff 12 years ago, we were gonna be at this precipice, this moment in time. And so, I absolutely love the work that you do, so.
Thank you, Dr. Brown.
Mr. Chair, I mean, I think there's an awareness of what was coming, and now it's here, as you said. The Department of Human Services puts out projections based on what the need will be for long-term care and for increased care based on population projections. And I guess in the 13 years that I've been doing this, I have been surprised by how many times the alignment isn't necessarily there with what we know is about to happen. And there's many different reasons for that, as you all know.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your presentation, Dr. Barr. Senator.
I have two questions though. One question is that on the home ownership rate, how is that compared to the white majority?
Dr. Barr.
Mr. Chair, Senator, so the overall homeownership rate, if I'm remembering correctly, it's just above that 72%, so it might be about 73, 74 for white non-Hispanic, but if you look at the overall rate for all Minnesotans, it's 72%.
Senator.
And I have another question, breakdown from that, when I look at this chart of different region of Asian heritage, in comparison to Southeast Asian, which I believe have greater needs, but when I look at the home ownership here, that's made me, proud to some degree, although our Burmese and Karen community are lagging behind. But I assume that the housing stock of the Asian American community as a whole, or Southeast Asian as a whole, are still in the area of affordable housing. Depending on how you define affordable housing these days, affordable housing is not affordable, but I'm sure the housing stock varies from groups to groups here. That's my assumption, but am I right on that?
Dr. Brown.
Mr. Chair, Senator, I'm not an expert in housing, but what I hear from almost every committee that I appear before is housing comes up as an issue, housing that's affordable and good quality. And so I would expect that wherever you are in the state, it's going to be an issue, particularly for lower income or middle income Minnesotans.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Barr, for always providing us with insightful demographic information. Next up, we have Dr. Bruce Corey, Professor of Economics at Concordia University. And after Dr. Corey, we will have Dr. Tranum, the Assistant Commissioner from the Office of Equity and Engagement at the Minnesota Department of Education. Dr. Corey, as you're getting set up there, members, we do have the presentation in our packets. And so, thank you, Senator Hoffman. Senator Dr. Corey, whenever you're ready, please state your name for the record and you may begin.
As we are setting up, I'll introduce myself. My name is Bruce Corey. I'm a professor of economics at Concordia University in St. Paul, and I appreciate the invitation to present to you data on the economic contributions and of Asian Minnesotans. And so the handout that I've given, one key statistic that you should keep in mind is that this ethnic economy is $35 billion. The Asian ethnic economy is $35 billion, with income being about $13 billion, taxes being about $1.3 billion, over 21,000 businesses, over 167,000 workers, and about 90,000 youth in our schools and universities. That is the asset that we bring to Minnesota today, and this is the asset that needs investments and growth. And for example, in your district, Senator Fong, you have the largest ethnic economy in Minnesota with about $2 billion in income. Senator Farr, in your district, is $1.7 billion ethnic economy, $1.4 billion in Chinese economy, and yours, Chair Zhang, your ethnic economy is $1.2 billion. So there are these ethnic economies that need representation, and we fought very hard during the redistricting process to bring that representation to the table. So that's quickly up for those who can't see the data on the ethnic Asian economy, which is a very powerful presence in Minnesota. And so as a strategic priority as you go through this legislative session and others, is to think about how you could build the ladders of success for the Asian American community, as we've seen in the data, the growth in the community. What can we do next? For example, when we look at our youth, without a bachelor's degree and with a bachelor's degree, there's a big difference. Without a bachelor's degree, they were working and this is data from 24 months after graduation. Without a bachelor's degree, their hourly wage is about $18 an hour. With a bachelor's degree, it goes up to $26 an hour. So there's a strategic importance to make sure that our youth all track towards graduate degrees and in the right major. Today was the day of the Capitol where a lot of my students were out here petitioning for the state grant program to make sure that's adequately funded, and that plays a very critical role in their career success. When we talk about businesses, as I saw in the room, and Chair Dong, and in Maplewood Mall, you're getting the bunk down expansion in there, and then in the west suburbs, you'll find the Asian malls in Egan, and then moving into Blaine. So there's a lot of activities happening in suburban Minnesota that's a little different than what's happening in the metro area. So we have a wide range from not only the mom and pop shop, but high-tech companies as well as real estate development. And so what these businesses need, access to capital, because a lot of these businesses that I refer to have grown without investments from the public. Access to markets, access to networks, and a lot of people are moving to real estate development, as we can see even on University Avenue. In the area of workforce, as mentioned, the graying of the population and how we need people to be filling those gaps in the Minnesota critical sectors of the economy, things like language access, career pathways, and of late it's become even more important, keeping an eye on immigration reform and protection of the rights of immigrants in this country, and addressing issues like land receiving, access to leadership opportunities by our community. And finally, as a community, as we are trying to do today, is how can we come together as one? How do we break down the different silos? Because we need to find that common ground, because collectively we can do and achieve much. So that's, in a nutshell, what I have to say. Celebrating this $35 billion Asian Minnesota economy.
Thank you, Dr. Corey. Members, any questions or comments to Dr. Corey? Senator Pop.
Thank you, Chair Young. Dr. Corey, I always love your presentations. The reason why I say that is because you really have a lot of data on our API community here in Minnesota, and especially our economic impact, and in the breakdown into the districts, even so. And not only that, but you come to the Capitol quite often to advocate, to make sure that we're funding investments into our API community. So I want to thank you for that advocacy as well. But when I look at your sheet here, and you talk about $13 billion in buying power, that's a lot for our API community. If we can come together to build something here, we've got a lot of power to do that. And so thank you so much for your presentation. And again, we're just so lucky that we have you here that has all this research and data.
Thank you, Senator Powell, and thank you, Dr. Corey, for your presentation. We look forward to working with you and seeing you advocate in these halls going forward. So thank you. Next up, we have Assistant Commissioner Tran from the Office of Equity and Engagement at the Minnesota Department of Education. Welcome, Commissioner, and I think if you have a presentation, staff will help put it together for you. And members, we do have the Commissioner's packets with us here. And it's ensuring access and opportunities for students of Asian ancestry. And so, Commissioner, whenever you're ready, you may proceed.
Good evening, Chair and Committee. My name is Dr. Makari Trainum. I am the Assistant Commissioner, one of 5 Assistant Commissioners at the Minnesota Department of Education. My office is the Office of Equity and Public Engagement. And so I'm going to talk just a little bit about our students and how we're ensuring access and opportunity for our students of Asian ancestry in our K-12 public schools. This is an overview that I'm going to bypass because as I was practicing this earlier today, I realized we are beyond 5 minutes in this presentation. So I'm going to just go ahead and get us started. These 2 slides that you guys are looking at shows 2021 through 2024 math and reading standardized assessments that is the results for all the students in the state who identify as Asian American, but it does not include this particular graph, our Native Hawaiians and our Pacific Islanders. The yellow line represents Asian students relative to all students, which is the blue dotted line, and our white students, which is the brown line, and then you see our English learners that are represented by the light blue line. Just by looking at these charts, one might think that our Asian students are doing okay, hovering at just below the all-student data, but we know that aggregated data for such a diverse group of students can conceal important nuances and disparities. If we want to know how our refugee experienced Asian American students are doing, we have to look at disaggregated data by ethnicity that will indicate how our Hmong, our Korean, our Vietnamese, our Laotian, our Cambodian, and Vietnamese students do on standardized tests compared to their Chinese and Asian Indian counterparts. Due to our limited time, I have not included that because I want to focus on our EL students in particular and point out that what we can tell by looking at this chart is that our English learners don't do as well on standardized test assessments or they're struggling when it comes to reaching proficiency in math and reading. It's important for me to also say that standardized assessments results should not be interpreted as reflecting a student's ability to learn. Those are not the same thing. These results are intended to inform the state educational leaders and legislators how schools and districts are doing and to help students meet and exceed proficiency on state standards. The question that we really have to ask ourselves is what are we going to do when we see that year after year, too many of our immigrant and refugee experienced students and English learners are struggling? What I'll offer is that the good news is that we have more than enough quantitative and anecdotal information to help us understand what we can do to ensure that every student and every child thrives, regardless of where they live and where their families came from. These are opportunities where we see that there could be some improvements for change, right? And what we're going to offer is that ongoing support to districts and charters to better utilize positions such as cultural liaisons, family advocates, and other family engagement staff, which are often held by people of color, that those positions can actually help with reshaping leadership culture. These staff often work in isolation from senior leadership, which hinders their ability to inform high-level decision-making with their knowledge and critical consciousness, as well as their connections to students, families, and the community at large. Ongoing support to help districts transition away from using bilingual staff and bilingual staff as interpreters and translators, and instead actually having interpreters and translators. What we know is that these types of practices have long been identified by parents as something that they advocate for, as when using just a bilingual staff member, it actually sows seeds of doubt and mistrust. I'll also offer mistrust. Additionally, we're offering that ongoing support to help districts integrate direct community engagement activities in their family engagement plans. Families often feel strong about the need for the school leadership to learn from them and their broader communities beyond just the educational needs and concerns. This is inclusive of working with districts to shift from providing parents notification via email or letters, and actually moving towards in-person and virtual meetings where parents can ask questions and receive information and clarification in a timely manner. Lastly, ongoing support to help districts ensure that our English learner students have equal access to challenging grade level academic content as their non-EL learners, and that's English learners peers. This is about making sure that English learner students do not miss out on important opportunities to learn from their content teachers, that they are engaging with non-English learner students, and that they're supported and prepared to thrive once they actually exit their EL services. These are some of the key policies that are in place, and we have our local language. We have Minnesota Statute 123B.23 that's in place now, and starting in 2025-26 school year, 2025-26, that's next school year, districts have to have a local language access plan in place, and MDE is working to provide support and to assist districts with making that happen. We have the LEAPS program, or legislation, policy, which is the Learning English for Academic Proficiency and Success Act. This sets forth key strategies for schools to leverage students' multicultural and multilingual experiences as assets. We also have, which is something we're really excited about, is the Minnesota Bilingual SEALs program, which awards students, it awards students a bilingual seal that here in Minnesota often can offer college credit to students to have. Lastly, we have our state and federal English learner education legislation, which states that students who do not demonstrate English language proficiency have the right to a language instruction education program. Really quickly, I just want to go over the standardized process for EL identification. That's English learner identification. There's 3 steps. There's the identification, there's the entrance, and then there's the exit. The identification happens through an eligibility that's determined as families are enrolling their students. If they identify that English is a second language, then there's an assessment that's offered. Oftentimes that's happening 30 days after the student is actually enrolled in school. Based on how that comes back, they are then determined whether they're going to be entered into the programming. They are continuously updated around their eligibility and services families and students are, and then their progress is monitored through access. And then if the students, in the exit part of it, if they score an overall composite score of 4.5, and then 3.5 in at least 3 or more domains, they are exited from those services. Successes. I'll finish it up.
Certainly.
Let's just talk about the successes really quickly. And then, so really quickly, the success, we had the EDI Center merge with our Public Engagement Division. What this allows is that we are serving families that historically have been underserved or marginalized. We offer a parent or guardian guide to schools for families that are new to country. We understand the importance of coordinating to make sure that we are responding as we have had our Afghan evacuees, our Ukrainian, as well as our U.S.-Mexico border. We have partnered with other state agencies to ensure that families have what they need. And then ultimately, we have our refugee and immigrant network. And the last thing that I'll just end with really quickly is that we have, for the 2nd year in a row, we'll be running our New American Education Summit that's hosted by MDE and DHS, and this is where we're bringing our immigrant and refugee families together, our students and families together, actually students, to be able to come together and find commonality, get support and feel and thrive in being uplifted.
Thank you, Commissioner. I really appreciate your presentation. Senator Pod, I think you had some information for the public.
Thank you, Chair Hyung. Thank you, Assistant Commissioner, for coming today and talking about this very important topic and issue of education. As we know, education is really important for our children in making sure that they're prepared for their future and that their future is bright. The Department of Education here in Minnesota is a big part of that, making sure that they work with our school districts and our charter schools to ensure that every child succeeds. And that whether that's through standard testing or that's through other programs and services that you provide to schools and districts. So thank you so much for the work that you do. I know for many of us here in this room that are parents who also represent some of our schools here, that it's so important that we partner with our Minnesota Department of Education and we let them know where the gaps are and what we still need. Because that's the only way that we're going to be able to get our state department to make sure that they work in partnership with us and in collaboration with us to address those educational gaps and disparities. Thank you.
Thank you, and Senator Pod, I think we skipped the housekeeping notes that you're going to have for us. I think members of the public want to know where the bathrooms were and what else we have.
Thank you, Senator Hill. So I forgot to give housekeeping information for all of you. I just want to make sure that you know that the restrooms are out this door, all the way to the corner, all the way, turn right, all the way to the end of the hallway to the right is where the public restrooms are. Also that if you do go outside of this building, just know that the building locks at 7 p.m. So if you go outside, make sure you have a friend who's on the inside that will let you back in if you intend to come back in because they will automatically lock and lock you out. I want to thank our security that's here today, making sure that all of you are safe in this building today. We do have security on the premise. I also want to ask that everybody turn your phone to vibrate if you haven't already done so. And if you do need to take a call, make sure you go outside and you take that call instead of inside here. You guys all have been doing a fantastic job. These are just notes in the beginning to remind everyone. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Senator Powell and Commissioner. Sorry, I think Senator Hurd had a question. Senator Hurd.
I'm sorry, I wasn't sure. I'm like, mine.
Commissioner, I think, public school has been a grooming factor to my life as a refugee. Without public school, I think I won't be here, being that everything deal with literature, although I struggle with dyslexia, and that's not the subject that I want to talk about here, but a couple of weeks ago I went to the hearing in this St. Paul public school, and I heard some parents brought up the issue that sometimes children, really small children, would automatically be signed up to be an L when they don't even speak Hmong themselves, or don't speak Hmong at home. And many times the parent found that, sometimes the children, English is even worse than the parent generation. So is there something that, we can think creatively, because we all want as a whole, even we are in a melting pot society, we don't want to leave one group behind. So, but how could we design policy that are empowering to everyone, but not leaving some community behind? That's what I heard at the St. Paul School Board testimony, that sometimes automatically put their children to ELL may not benefit them in the long haul.
Commissioner?
Thank you, Chair, and Senator, for the question. What I would offer is a couple of things. One, I like to say that we're a pot of gumbo, right, which allows for us to maintain our cultural heritage while also participating in the society that we're a part of, right? Where we are part of, which means that maintaining our heritage language is really important if that's what families choose. And if they choose not to, that's okay as well. What I would offer is that oftentimes when it should not be that students are simply placed in EL. They're supposed to be tested, right? So ideally, if English is not my first language, they should be tested. As a result of that testing, a determination is made if supports are needed, and then that is supposed to be discussed with families, just that students and families to say this is what it is. And that's the policy that is across the board guidance that MDE puts out as well for that. If something different is happening, it is absolutely important, as the parent is doing, to lift that up so that districts have an opportunity to respond and to see what are we doing and what are some shifts or changes that we should or could be making. Are we making assumptions just because a student shows up who looks a certain way and then we're simply making an assumption around that? And that clearly should not be happening. I couldn't offer in this moment a specific policy that we could go for, but this is something I will absolutely take back to my division. Lee Herr is the Director of Public Engagement and has done an amazing job. And has been working with our EL staff as there's been questions that come up. You mentioned dyslexia, that oftentimes students who are second language learners will be might be identified with dyslexia when that's actually not what it is, right? And so those are things that we are collectively working on to help folks be able to decipher information better so that students are actually getting the right supports that they need.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Senator Hurt?
Yeah, Commissioner, thank you for your words. And it has to be a policy that carefully crafted as a whole. We are, as legislators, we are in charge of making policy, but sometimes we'll be making instant policy that we think might fix things will bring in the other section of our community. And thank you for bringing that up. Well, we need your help as well.
Absolutely. And we are here to be a partner, and we absolutely believe that our learning comes from the community and that we are not the sole owners of knowledge, right? Knowledge is shared among us. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Senator Hurt. I learned something new about you. And next up, we have some of the community organizations that will be presenting members. We will keeping track of the time just to respect everybody here and the security staff. And so first up, we have Aapi USA to talk about the approach to addressing immediate and long-term needs of immigrant and refugee communities. Welcome to the Minnesota State Senate. Please state your name, and you may begin with your testimony.
Thank you, Chair Zhang and members of the committee. My name is Mary Niedermeyer, and I'm the CEO of Aapi. We began in 1982 after the Vietnam War as the Center for Asian Pacific Islanders. That's where the CAPI comes from. In 2008, we expanded our mission to serving all immigrants and refugees. So now we are just Aapi, but excitingly, we are actually giving a new acronym this fall, so stay tuned. We have two locations. Our original location is South Minneapolis, and our headquarters in Brooklyn Center. We have grown over the years and have about 50 full-time staff and serve over 10,000 immigrants and refugees from around the world. About 60% of the folks we serve are Southeast Asian. The other 40% are from so many different cultures. We take a holistic approach with our services that meet essential needs, increase income and wealth, and elevate their voices with decision makers to advance the social and economic position of immigrants and refugees. Since I only have 5 minutes, I'll be touching on 2 of our core programs, but we provide many different services into the community. So one that I wanted to speak about was our food shelf. And so we have had a long history of providing culturally specific food through our food shelf. We serve many seniors and community members from Southeast Asian community and expanding to Latinx foods and West African foods as well. And we really believe that our food shelf access is part of cultural preservation. We are really excited because we'll be expanding our services from not just the food shelf, but expanding it to a larger food system that will include a greenhouse, community garden, farmers market, and an expansion to our food shelf. And wanted to say thank you to Senator Pa for supporting that project. So the idea of this is that we will be creating more opportunity for immigrants to grow, sell, donate, and receive fresh food. So not just accessing the food shelf, but really having a system to access within Brooklyn Center. It'll be also an opportunity for community building between different ethnic groups in the community as well, since we are serving so many different immigrant groups. The other program that I want to touch on as well is our Economic Empowerment Department. And so we address our programs through a three-pronged approach. So we have our benefits, enrollment, and screening. So we help people identify what benefits they can receive. We help them navigate through services because often it can be really challenging to understand that whole process. And then as we are helping them set up a different benefits access, we also provide career training and job placement in high demand fields. And then lastly, we provide financial education and home ownership. And so we are certified by HUD to provide home ownership counseling. These services can take several years because we're working with them on building their credit, accessing loans, and doing their budget, things like that. I wanted to just share a story of a participant. Pancho's journey to home ownership is a powerful testament to perseverance and the support of community. As first-generation Hmong immigrants, they initially faced challenges in navigating the home buying process. However, with the help of their dedicated homeownership coach, who not only guided them through the complexities of budgeting and credit, but also facilitated communication with their lender, they were able to achieve their dream of owning a home. When Pancho recently welcomed their first child, they realized the need for a home that could grow with their expanding family, as well as space for Pa's in-laws to live with them. This new chapter underscored the importance of not just purchasing a home, but finding a place that could support their evolving family dynamic. The coach's assistance allowed them to fully understand the steps and options available to them, including tapping into existing down payment assistance programs for first-time homebuyers. Their journey didn't stop at buying a house. Pa and Cho were eager to engage in their community and participate in civic duties, but they had never fully understood the concept or process of voting due to language barriers. After purchasing their home, they returned to their coach for help. The coach assisted them in accessing resources about voting, and for the first time, Pa and Cho were able to vote in a major election. While the purchase of a home is often seen as the end of the journey for Pa and Cho, it was just the beginning of building a future where they are empowered to fully participate in their community and make decisions that affect their lives. This story is just kind of an example of how CAPI services are really integrated. So somebody can come in, access the food shelf, and at the food shelf they can see, oh, well, maybe I don't have access to SNAP or MNsure or other benefits. And then we can provide help with housing, accessing legal resources, and then looking at the longer term of really building their family stability and getting engaged in their community. And that work is not possible without our staff and our leadership team. And so something that is really core to our mission is representation. And so we are an immigrant-led and serving organization. Our own lived experience with racism, feeling like a perpetual foreigner, learning a new language, navigating complex systems helps us develop more effective programming. And so we really seek to provide a welcoming and safe atmosphere for not only community members, but also staff, since they are also part of the community.
All right, well, thank you so much, for your presentation. I wanted to welcome Senator Liz Bolden for joining us here today. As I mentioned earlier, senators will come and go, but I would like to give you the floor to introduce yourself, where you represent, and a little bit about yourself.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So I'm Liz Bolden. I represent District 25, which is most of Rochester and some areas north of Rochester. This is my first term in the Senate. Prior to this, I served one term in the House. And my life and work outside of the legislature is in healthcare. I'm a registered nurse for a long, long time. So I'm very happy to be here with you all this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Bolden. That's right. Thank you so much, Senator Pop.
Thank you, Chair Hill. I just want to say that Kathy has done extraordinary work. I see Kathy quite often here at the Capitol advocating for making sure that we fund programs like what Kathy has that serves our community, homeownership programs, down payment assistance program, financial counseling. But one thing I would love to hear from everyone who comes to speak or testify is if you can share what you think is the biggest needs in our community, in our API community, and the people that you serve, that would be great. Just because I'm taking note, and those are going to be some of our policy priorities this year and going forward. But I know that I've got a couple of bills with Kathy, so I kind of already know some of the issues that they care about, but we'd love to hear from everyone on that.
Senator Pop, can we get the Senate bill numbers for the rest of us?
Senator Hill, putting me on the spot here, I don't remember.
Well, thank you, Senator Pa, and thank you, Kathy USA, for all your great work, and we look forward to hearing from you here at the Capitol going forward. Next up, we have Sewa with a presentation on the South Asian community total family wellness approach. And Anjali Mishra, the executive director for SEWA. Whenever you're ready to go, please state your name for the record, and you may begin your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the caucus. For the record, my name is Anjali Mishra Cameron, CEO of SEWA AFW. I'm joined in the audience by two of our co-executive directors, Mubina Qureshi and Nashrat Yatha, are here as well. So I will actually go quickly through the slides because I have a long list of issues on behalf of the community to present to the committee. So, but briefly, for those who aren't familiar with SEWA, we are Minnesota's largest and actually the upper Midwest largest social service organization for South Asians. South Asians includes communities in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and most recently our Afghan evacuees. SEWA started as a small nonprofit organization, just a group of volunteers gathering in a Fridley basement to support women who were survivors of violence, and it has now grown to 24 staff members and providing more than 10 different distinct programmatic streams, which I will go into, and help inform some of our work on issues of impact we're seeing in the South Asian community and broader API communities. We're primarily located in the 7 metro area across those counties, but we do see large populations across all of our South Asian communities in Olmsted and in St. Cloud as well. So we have a number of different program areas. Just briefly, I want to mention that we have our senior programs, our community-free health clinics and mobile health initiatives, our family violence prevention and intervention program, gender-based programming, which includes our men's and women's circles, our women's Chai and Chat, and our South Asian Career League. We have culturally specific meal delivery programs across the metro, refugee and resettlement services, which includes basic needs, education support with suburban school districts, and economic development and career development for new refugees resettled to Minnesota. We also have youth engagement activities, neurodivergent and disability supports for families, civic engagement, basic needs support, and enrollment, including specifically access to driver's licenses and knowledge testing support. And we have a strong focus on anti-Asian hate and community building supports. So I'm going to dive into how all of these programs shape the issues that we're seeing in the community. First, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that SEWA has a significant need as we are growing as an organization to develop our community space. Our building space in Brooklyn Center is of critical importance to the South Asian community because during these challenging times, we have an opportunity to create the only secular space for the South Asian community in Minnesota. Every other community space is a religious gathering space, and it creates a lot of challenges for all to feel welcome in those spaces. So first and foremost, it is a priority to create opportunities for welcoming spaces for our Asian communities, and that requires investment on behalf of the state. Second, we see in our core programming areas an increased need across all areas. That includes healthcare access and affordability, and particularly there's legislation this year about access to quality medical interpretation. We're also seeing increases in family violence and sexual violence within our community, and so increased support for these, increased advocacy for survivors of violence in all areas, including women and girls, and members of our LGBTQ plus community. We also have, as Senator Hoffman definitely mentioned, actually as a result of some of the immigration practices that were set into place in the 1960s, we are seeing the first wave of South Asian seniors really come into high need levels. And so an increased need of support for South Asian seniors, broadly AAPI seniors, as we're seeing that first generation that have been impacted by broad immigration policies come of age and rely heavily on the state for support. And of course, providing culturally specific services is more expensive than providing mainstream services because you have to think about interpretation costs. We have a meal delivery program. Sourcing culturally specific meals is more expensive. On the economic development front, we need some more sustainable career pathways for immigrants and refugees, especially small business development supports. In our Afghan and Bhutanese refugee communities, we want to see clearer pathways for career support rather than simply job placement within the first 90 days. We want to see increased income qualifications on basic needs programs because as we know that many Asian Americans tend to sit right above the income level qualifications, and as the costs and economic forces continue to increase the overall cost of items, that becomes more of a squeeze on our families. So increasing some of those income qualifications for things like child care assistance, for basic needs support, all of those are really, really important for our community. I also have to mention that we are seeing an enormous increase in anti-Asian hate within the last few months. It's up 66% nationally. For South Asians, it's up 75%. So there's a targeted increase in online rhetoric and threats facing our South Asian community. We've seen that here in Minnesota as well. We have increased reporting of families within school districts that their schools are more hostile environments for our South Asian students, with comments in hallways, comments in the classroom. And so one of the things that we also need is a more robust reporting mechanism within the state of Minnesota for anti-Asian hate. Right now, the reporting mechanism is through law enforcement, and as we know through our gender-based violence programming, that less than 12% of women will go to law enforcement to report an act of violence. And so when you think about anti-Asian hate, we would anticipate that our community's reticence to go before law enforcement would be significant. And so asking for a reporting mechanism that can collect incidents outside of the legal system. We've also, as a result of large-scale immigration changes, for example, the H-1B visa program, in 2024, 70% of H-1B visa holders were of Indian descent. It is a significant program within the community, and just to put some context of the data shared by the Assistant Commissioner, when you look at Asian Indian communities and the high level of achievement within Asian Indian students, you have to remember that many of those students do not have a permanent legal residency pathway in the United States. And in order to to not return to their country of origin, if their parents are H-1B visa holders, they have to acquire an H-1B visa themselves, which means that It's an enormous amount of pressure on young South Asians whose parents came through an H-1B visa program. But they have to perform at a very high achieving level to achieve their own visa. They age out of that program and will have deportation orders if they do not achieve that level of success. Tied with that is a significant burden of mental health crisis. We are seeing in our therapeutic services program, we have an increase in suicidal ideation directly related to stress from immigration cases. We are seeing an increase in that. We had a few cases of suicide over the last few months tied to immigration cases. I also, the one other thing that I want to mention, and Kathy already delved into this a little bit, is that, and this was really inspired by Dr. Brower's presentation, that the importance of home ownership and access to home ownership across communities. So when we think about income levels, the South Asian community has some of the highest income levels across the state and across the nation in terms of median household income. But as Cal very adeptly reported in their economic wealth study of Asian populations, there is, you cannot look at Asian wealth in by the same metrics that you would look at mainstream wealth. And so if you're coming with zero generational wealth, if every dollar you earn is immediately supporting family members back home, the ability to and access to home ownership is limited. And so we actually see, even accounting for median household income, lower home ownership rates among South Asian immigrants than we do amongst other immigrant populations because of that lack of permanency. So I will end my comments there.
Thank you, Executive Director Cameron. Sorry, I missed your last name earlier, but I have a question about, you said in the last 3 to 4 months, there's been an increase. You guys know where that increase is coming from?
Yeah, absolutely. There is, politics aside, there's an increase in rhetoric online that has fed into a sense of stress about a lack of pathway to permanency. Because most of our community is foreign-born and continues, we are the fastest growing population nationally, the South Asian community, and specifically we have subpopulations within that are the fastest growing nationally. And so that means that we are seeing that lack of stability is leading to more and more mental health crises, especially in students who are experiencing it in the classroom. So classroom safety, classroom mental health supports, all of those things are factors.
All right, well, thank you so much for your presentation. And next up, we'll move on to Tuba Nguyen, presentation on children's book author and early childhood literacy. Well, Ms. Nguyen, as your lead, you are getting ready at the clear. There's a handout for members that's in the packet too. Well, Ms. Nguyen, welcome to the Minnesota State Senate. Whenever you're ready, please begin.
Thank you. I love all those photos. Thank you. Just a little aesthetic, setting it up. Bringing my ancestors, my family into the space with us today because it's so important to reflect of how did I get here, right? And my ancestors moved my legs, my spirit is here because of them, and the sacrifices that they made. So I'm so honored to sit before you and share a little bit about my story, their story, and how it's impacting a lot of young children and creating their stories. So with that, I'll begin, because I only have 5 minutes, and I tried to be concise as possible. But thank you, Senators Zhang, Herfa, and Bolden for being here and warmly inviting me, along with other vital community leaders, advocates, and change agents, to share our personal stories and the work we pride ourselves on.
Unlike my esteemed colleagues, I didn't bring a disaggregated data, spreadsheets, or strategic plans, just pictures, memories, and lived experiences. Hope that's okay. For the record, my name is Tuba Nguyen. I am an educator, author, and community advocate. I was born in Chao Đốc, Anh Giang, Vietnam in 1990. I am a Minh Thai girl, that is a country Vietnamese girl to the core. Before migrating to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, I was a child refugee in the Philippines with my parents and my older sister. And now, as an adult, like many working class Minnesotans, I work 3 jobs, juggle a family life, yet still make time to dismantle systemic racism and fight back against fascism. I earned 2 degrees at Rasmussen University in early childhood education with a focus on special needs and leadership. With the support of my friends and families, loved ones, and a successful Kickstarter because of a community-backed campaign, I was able to publish my first children's book titled My Daddy Tells Me on April 23rd, 2022. So the anniversary is almost coming up. And I really want to share a special shout out to AmazeWorks organization who helped sponsor my book launch. The entire initiative of this early literacy experience has been a holistic network approach to sustainability. And when I say that, I mean that my initiative led as a grassroots effort, and it turned into a registered LLC, which enabled me to be able to sell and distribute over 1,000 copies nationally and internationally with a reprint in 2023. Before I delve into my early literacy work, I want to share the why behind writing my children's book. Growing up as a multilingual learner, I often felt self-conscious about reading and literacy, which then affected my relationship with books and reading. Moreover, I didn't see characters who looked like me in the books, or characters who shared similar experiences, or even celebrated their cultural identity. For these reasons, I wanted to create a book that celebrates my cultural identities, but also highlights the special bond between a father and a daughter. More importantly, it was very important for me to illuminate the profound power of a father's unwavering love, a love that speaks directly to his daughter's heart, affirming her worth, nurturing her confidence, and weaving the unbreakable bond that becomes the lifelong armor against self-doubt. It was truly important for me to reclaim that narrative around the complex dynamics between fathers and daughters, especially in the AAPI immigrant refugee community. It was a very healing experience for me to use my book as a way to celebrate diversity and family. Working with many families and children over the years, watching them heal and bond over books and sharing stories has been an honor of a lifetime and something I will cherish for the rest of my life. I believe that children's books are becoming a cornerstone for social justice work among young children because, simply put, representation matters. No matter who you are, what you look like, when your voice is heard and you feel seen, it builds your self-esteem, it builds your sense of identity and belonging. So just imagine what that does for a young child. We know that from 0 to 5, the developmental capacities flourish. And so it is really important to build an ecosystem of literacy for young children. And that consists of libraries, schools, home, communities. And so in my personal experience in working with multilingual, multi-generational families, is that there is a reluctancy in some members to read to the child. And that is because of anxieties around their own reading skills, as well as the fear of their child being ridiculed for developing an accent. So we know that racism in classrooms still very much persists, that it really withholds families and empowers them to engage in early literacy experiences with their child. So a lot of my early literacy initiatives aim to address these concerns by promoting singing, dancing, rhyming, wordplay, asking open-ended questions to build brain development, and essentially offer storytelling as a way to continue storytelling traditions from our cultures. And I want to also highlight why it's so important to offer early literacy at a young age for children. When I had visited a 4th grade class in Philadelphia at Francis Scott Key Elementary, there was a student that asked me, "Why is my dad bigger than me, but he can't speak English like me?" And so the weight of that innocent question was so heavy, but it was something I was so familiar with. Because the ability to read is a vital lifeline for many children in these homes that English is not their first language. And often, as a first formative memories around reading, it's because we are navigating social systems and paying bills for our family members, and then sometimes fitting in ordering pizza for the auntie down the road. So it is extremely important that children have opportunities to read and enjoy literature as entertainment and relaxation rather than just survival tactics.
All right, well, thank you, Ms. Gwen, for your presentation and for your pioneering work in this field. And Senator Herr had a question or a comment. Senator.
I don't have a question. And this is just between us legislature, but Ms. Nguyen had brought us something. Earlier you mentioned you learned something new about me. I know exactly what you referred to, I'm not going to repeat it. But another big point is that the first city that I ride in America is Sioux Falls, South Dakota. That's something we had in common.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Nguyen. Can you repeat the title of your book again?
Yes, the title of my book is My Daddy Tells Me. And Senator, did you have a question?
Senator.
Thank you, Chair Hill. I just wanted to say that this year we're advocating for funding a grant for cultural studies materials and books. It was actually something that Senator Hurd led last year and passed quite I forgot how much, Senator Hurd, that went to cultural studies and materials and books. Because you're right, representation matters, and our students need to see themselves represented in the books that they read. I thank you so much. As a fellow author of books as well, I love that I can't wait to read your book.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so next we have Ms. Zheng Shaw will be presenting mental health education, Hmong language, and culture. And members, we also have their packet, or their presentation in our packet. All right, to the testifier, please state your name for the record and you may begin.
My name is Bang Yang. Yeshon Chandu, Mr. Chair and Committee. I am the Executive Director of Minnesota Zhejiang, whose mission is to empower the Hmong community by nurturing the Hmong language, healing through arts and wellness, and becoming more powerful through education across generation. We are only 5 years old as an organization. What we do is we do a national home language reclamation work nationally with teachers in California, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, with mentorship programs and affinity networking sessions. We also have a state Miss and a Hmong Educators Coalition, where we also have mentorship and affinity groups as well. And our third piece of what we do is we do local work in the West Metro with the Brooklyn's Hmong New Year, I Strive Hmong Camp, Empowering to Thrive Hmong Boys Initiative, local healings with the arts, and also standardizing the Hmong language. And so the last few months have been some of the most stressful years running a nonprofit as we face uncertainty around federal mandates. The burden has been heavy, especially for nonprofit leaders and the Hmong community with sleepless nights and deep concerns for the future. Since the fall, we've seen a trend of Asian educators leaving the classroom. The dismantling of the DEI policy under the federal government has heightened scrutiny, with microaggressions escalating, leading to burnout and even depression in the schools for Asian Hmong teachers. I've seen firsthand Hmong educators leaving the classrooms to find careers where they feel at home. If you believe in having BIPOC teachers be represented in the classroom and are committed to change, you must create policies such as narrative portrait policies to learn more about the hidden truths behind the closed doors of our education systems and hold individuals accountable for harming BIPOC Asian Hmong teachers, educators in the school. These behaviors must stop. The federal English-only policy also complicates matters. Budget cuts across districts are disproportionately affecting heritage language programs, which are crucial for supporting students' language acquisition, affirming cultural identities, with increased class sizes or elimination of classes. These programs have been essential for both students and the state's economy by preparing Hmong individuals to contribute to Minnesota's workforce in the last 2 decades. It is also critical that you continue to support policies that prioritize heritage language education and teacher licensure for less commonly taught language teachers like Hmong, Somali, and Karen. In 2024, Minnesota JJ partnered with Concordia College, Moorhead, and so we had 15 Hmong language teachers graduate with a world language license with an emphasis in Hmong. We have 10 teachers in cohort 2 who are Hmong, Arabic, Karen, and Somali. And then also we are currently recruiting for cohort 3. So thank you for your investment in the policies that support less commonly taught language or heritage language teachers. That is a great investment into the future of Minnesotans. Finally, the mental health crisis continues to rise over the last decade. As you know, Hmong youths are 4 times more likely to face a mental health need due to cultural, family, social media, gaming, school, lack of relationship with someone who cares. There's so many reasons why. And we must do better because we know that if we don't, it's going to get worse. And I just want to close that your proactive work will keep our Southeast Asian families and teachers, Hmong teachers, students in our community in a better place. So thank you for everything you do. And I know that the future is right before our eyes. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. We really appreciate it. Members, any questions or comments? Senator Pa, and then we'll go next up will be transforming generations. Senator Pa.
Thank you, Chair Phil. I just wanted to say, Ms. Yang, I've known you for a long time. I've been a teacher and an advocate in our school district, in Osceola School District, and you've always been an advocate for especially our young people. But you were talking about your organization's being just 5 years old. I just want to say your organization may be young, but it has made huge impacts in our community already, and especially around youth mental health, and I want to thank you for that. Not just your work, but this work of your staff, your board, and the leaders in your organization. It's just phenomenal, and thank you. I agree with you that we need to do more investments in youth mental health, and among many of the things in your package here as well, it will be a priority of ours. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator Pa. Senator Hurd.
Ms. Yang, thank you for your presentation. I'm always wondering, we've been putting legislation forth about the lack of recruitment. Well, there is a lack of, minority teacher, but we put legislation forth to give incentive to draw in interest from teacher of color. And from my perspective, I want to see more Southeast Asian interest in becoming teacher, but being first generation American, I know that they have different endeavor or have different dream. Perhaps America is a dream for them to pursue economic opportunity, and teacher may not be at that route. But what do you see? How do we interest, Asian into the field of academy and teaching?
Thank you, sir. Ms. Yang.
Yeah, definitely salary is a huge factor. When I talk to my students, they say, Ms. Yang, you're only making 45,000 starting. I can make 60,000 in this other career. So I think salary does make a difference. But after salary, once folks get into the program at the college level, into the classroom, mentorship is so important. That's why our mentorship at Minnesota Zhuzhou with the Hmong Educators Coalition, we partner college Hmong teachers, student teachers with veteran teachers, Hmong veteran teachers in the classroom. And so we have this pipeline of making sure that we are supporting our teachers from the time they're in the college level to the classroom, and that we create a community where we network. And if you're not happy where you are, guess what? There's a network of other teachers, but they'll be more than welcome to take you, so that nobody has to leave the education field because of the microaggression or because they don't feel right at that school. And so that network, we've already started creating that. We have close to 400 people on our Facebook page who are educators in Minnesota. So we know that there is a need, and we just want to make sure that we continue to let our students know why we became teachers in the first place. That's how I inspired several of my students who are now teachers. And we want to make sure that our teachers continue to let their students know the benefits of teaching, even though what they see may not be, the whole picture. But we do need our teachers to make sure that this group of teachers can retire in the next 5-10 years, and we'll need that replacement for those Hmong teachers who are retiring and so forth. So,
all right. Well, thank you, Ms. Yang, for your presentation. And so that wraps up all of our next up we have Transforming Generations. As you're making your way up, after this we will open up public testimony, but we did get a list of folks that did sign up, and so I'll read off the list after Transforming Generations presents. But after this, the first up we have the Hmong SGU with Captain Simon Wang, and then after him will be Principal Yi Vang. All right, to the testifier, as you get set up, whenever you're ready, please state your name for the record, and you may begin.
Good evening. My name is Say. I'm the executive director, Say Yang, executive director at Transforming Generations. I also feel like I didn't do my homework because I didn't bring these stats, but we can connect afterwards. Our mission is to end gender-based violence within the Hmong and Southeast Asian community. We do this by organizing, educating, and transforming cultural and power dynamics. I'm a survivor myself. I've been in this work for about almost 20 years now, so working with victim survivors as well as working within the queer and trans community. A little bit about us. In our booklet or our presentation, I added some things about programs and services just in case this is new for you. We provide advocacy program. We have advocacy program that provides services to Hmong and Southeast Asian victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. We have a mental health wellness program, a youth program, queer justice program, and our youth program, which you can all read on your own. But the issue areas today that I want to bring to light is that we as an organization are 30% federally funded and concerned about crime victim services dollars, especially as a culturally specific organization servicing the Hmong Southeast Asian community and our queer and trans community as well. And we're looking for the state to step in and to support our programs, especially because of our unique niche we provide in the local ecosystem. And so, the funding supports ongoing culturally specific advocacy services for the Hmong community, and this is a very integral and important for our system, our ecosystem in Minnesota here, is because, as some of you may know, there are two systems at play, right? There's the Hmong system, and there's also our legal system. So it's very important for our advocates to be able to navigate both of those systems when working with victims and survivors. The funding supports our capacity building of Hmong domestic violence and sexual assault advocates through our Hmong Minnesota Gender Justice Collective, which is something that Transforming Generations actually holds. And in that collective, what we do is we actually teach a lot of our incoming Hmong advocates about the Hmong culture, why we practice things a certain way. We teach them the language, the lexicon for how to talk about domestic violence and sexual assault. We know that in the Hmong community there's a very specific way to talk about it. And we know that a lot of times folks are coming in still needing to learn the Hmong language, and so we are providing that support as well. Because oftentimes people see our organization and they think we just provide service to victim survivors, but actually we're building the capacity of other advocates, especially those who are Hmong within mainstream organizations that serve victim survivors. We're building the pipeline of mental health professionals to understand the nuances of domestic violence, sexual assault, murder, suicides, abusive international marriages within the context of home, right? And working with impacted members of deportation as well as their families, because oftentimes they're seeking support letters from us, or when somebody is detained, their families are the one that needs help navigating and receiving support. And so we are building the pipeline for that, and this is important because oftentimes many of the therapists who don't understand the nuances still suggest family therapy, right, or suggest couples counseling. That's actually not safe because of the abusive dynamic that exists once they leave, right? We are also, we just piloted a 40-hour Hmong sexual assault advocacy curriculum, which often exists in other mainstream organizations, but there is not one that focuses on Hmong sexual assault, and we know that it's increasing in our community. We see it on Facebook, we see it everywhere in schools, and so we have just piloted that, and so that funding supports that very unique work. It also supports our school-based domestic violence sexual assault youth advocates to be in schools, and in particular, we are in the Hmong charter schools, which we are one of the very few that have access to that space, right? And so not very many domestic violence sexual assault organizations are able to access the Hmong charter schools, and we understand what it means to work with parents and the Hmong community as well, and so it's very important for us to be in those spaces. And lastly, it also supports our Career Justice Program, which provides support, advocacy, and mentorship for our Hmong, Southeast Asian, queer, and trans community members who are often ostracized and attacked because of their identity. And as an organization that serves this community, we know that we are easily targeted, especially during this political climate and because of the federal dollars and stipulations around the executive orders.
All right, Ms. Jane, if you have a final thought, please finish up your thought. I'm sorry the timer is up, but I'll let you continue.
Thank you. The last piece I would say here is that we also have an only Hmong men domestic violence education program for harm doers in Minnesota. It's called the Sminyo program. But we need funding to support that. CVS dollars cannot support that work, but also people are scared to support that work and to pay. And so I urge you all to please consider finding some kind of resource and support for that. We just opened this program nationally, so we are one of the very few nationally that provide Hmong men's domestic violence education. And so I urge you to please consider our work and keep us in mind as these bills roll out. There are a couple of bills that are rolling out. As you can see, I've added in here that you can look on your own. But thank you for your time and for giving me the grace of extra.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. I see that you have Senate File 1083. You have a House file number, but there's no Senate file number yet.
Yep.
Have you talked to one of the senators?
I've not, and it's not made its way there
All
yet.
right, so if you haven't, bring it to me, okay? I'll do it for you.
Wonderful.
All right, thank you. All right, next up we're doing open up for the public to come and testify. We have a list that's growing. these, we ask that the members keep it to 3 minutes, and I'm gonna have to rush you, we're gonna have a time here because we're trying to allow everybody to have an opportunity to speak. First up, Captain Simon Vang and Hmong SGU organization. And our President Vang is also joining us. And then after this, we have Principal B. Vang testifying, and then after them is Ed Elias and Hmong 18 Clan Council. So just be on standby. Our President Tom Vang, maybe you can begin for us with Captain Simon.
Nhà trong tu, tôi cho cái bé cho nó cho chữ, chẳng chẳng nhà đó nó rong xe ở đầu tuần chi bé cho nó chữ nhà đó ở chỉ đó, cho lu chẳng chẳng bé tụi cho, giờ họ bé lọt tới chỉ quý họ bé lọt luôn để rồi nè, cũng nhớ tới chờ là chùa cũng lúc bé hoa sai nụ, cũng lúc thay đầu giấy tụi khách hàng, tụi bé tụi cho sẽ kể chuyện gì cho nên cũng đã bỏ thế xỉa lưu hệ của đời nhớ được lộ trình. The last day của bên tờ lộ trình bây giờ tụi cho bao tụi thế hạ cho nên cũng đã bỏ thế xỉa tờ lộ trình lưu truy để có bao ở chỗ của nó. Cho anh ta đi cho nó cho chữ nhớ cho họ bên lúc cùng họ mấy đại biểu ta chỉ là nhớ được đi tệ. Bây giờ sát thọ có đi ba bê, cả đại biểu đời thông có đi mua cái công tiền đi ba bê. Vì đi cha cũng thế thì có đi ba bê. Bây giờ tôi cho HU, we are special bureau unit. Tập ba America bê thuộc bê cho chiếc xe tù. Để bê cho chiếc xe tù là cái đó nè thì tù thế hạ, si tù thế hạ một trăm đô la Mỹ. Bê nó nhiên là America chiếc cho xe một trăm đô la. Lưu nhiên lì này, yên lì này, nhớ lại của nó của tao sẽ như chiếc cho xe muốn sao tôi nợ rau đồ là thế bé đồ là tự tế chờ mà giờ này nó bé tôi cho ở lạc sai America tôi là thế cậu đồ làm đi tao phần đầu giờ cậu ít đồ làm nhà xa cho chip mà bây giờ cho nên mà bé bố trí nhau họ để bây giờ tao ba bé cả bé tao giá trị America tôi là bé tuổi cho nên cũng là bảo thả ít số mỏng sư bé ổn định là họ được cổ chi lúc xong.แต่สิ่งเป็นตัวต่อชีวิตจะยังนั่นนะอเมริกาจะจะต่อลาปอเป็นให้จะต่อหนึ่งปอเป็นนู่นนี่ยังหน่อยเจอนี่ยังแต่นะท่านี่จะนั่นจะเจออเมริกาแต่ผมได้ยืนกับเสด็จป้าเป็นจังแก่บัดทองผู้ให้นั่นซื้อลงเชื่อเจ้าchoให้เจ้าดอกประทาน
Thank you. What's all Captain Samuel? President Tom Wang, maybe you can provide testimony.
Yeah. Mr. Chair and member, thank you to have this opportunity to speak with you. Particularly the actual veteran, we appreciate and thank you so much for you for the 2023 and have been applied some legacy fund and mental health fund and bond and bill. The three of you worked so hard and have been passed, and right now we still maintain two operation. The legacy program we have been almost finished by May. Then will be end on legacy fund. And mental health, we have a 3-year program, and I like, you know already, this is a pilot project, and it is kind of tough for us to operate, but we will try our best to reach out our veteran. Almost every our veteran we have PTSD, okay, and but this is some kind of difficult because they so painful to tell the story, and they don't want to tell the story because they tell the story. They thought somebody thought they're crazy. Okay, we don't have the language of mental health on the Hmong language. Okay? kind of call it crazy, but we try to help them a little bit, make sure they are okay, and make sure they go to see doctor and food treatment. And our veteran is almost gone now. Probably in Minnesota we may have at least 400 to 500 people in Minnesota for sure. Okay.
President, I'll let you finish your thought here, and then we'll go to the next speaker.
Yeah, and the mental health is 3 years. Right now we done a year and a half, so we still have a year and a half to 2027 when we complete the mental health program. And we are very appreciative of you to help and to put your time, energy, everything to make sure that we get what we request. So this is very helpful. And not that, I like to request again the new legacy bill on this year. We really need it. The reason we need it because our soldiers keep reduced every day, every month. So maybe next couple years they'll be gone.
All right. Thank you, President Tom Vang, for your presentation. And Senator Herb will make sure that your bills go through as the chair of the Legacy Committee. All right. All right. Thank you. And then next up we have Ed Allies, and then after them is the 18 Clan Council. Senator Herb.
While they're making their way up here, I just want to make a statement that I'm really happy that we still have our veterans and our elders here with us, although the number is dwindling. And I know the politics before our time was different, but policy that affected them and helping them mainly only start when we elected Hmong Americans to office. Prior to that, it's different. And they're all playing politics with us, because they say they will help us, but then after closed door, nothing will happen. But I say maybe the progress, as you can see, is more visibly, and Senator Shaw and Senator Pa, you are aligned with this too, that when we elected someone like yourself and Senator Pa, things happen and happen quicker than we want to. And when we talk about the Veteran Memorial outside and also the May 14th, and so the legacy appropriations, sometimes we face resistance. But I question that, do you want to wait until the body of legislation become all Hmong American or all Asian American to make the decision? Decision have to be now. And so, that's we are at the number, and we'll start to increase representation for Asian American here in our Senate. And I want to encourage your civic participation as well. We can't just demand when we don't participate. I've been communicating a lot to a newcomer that if you want to change democracy in our home country, we have to start here by going to vote first. That way we can make a difference, and it's a different time now too with the new administration. I'll stop here.
Yeah. Thank you, Senator Hart, for the reminder, and Senator Pa, you have any comments for all of us? But just wanted to let folks know that you too can advocate, you too can come to the Capitol and talk to us, advocate for the bills. And we'll get to our next testifier from Ed Allies. Please state your name for the record, and you may begin.
Thank you, Senator Chung. My name is Joshua Crossan. I am the Executive Director of Ed Allies. You'll often see my colleague, Matt Shaver here, Policy Director from Ed Allies. But I'm here to represent the organization as a close partner of the Coalition of Asian American Leaders. I am also a son of a Filipino immigrant, so I am an Asian American leader as well. So thank you for the opportunity to come and speak. Ed Allies, we're an education advocacy nonprofit. We work to make sure that our education system works for each and every kid in the state of Minnesota. And right now, that's not the case. We have to talk about the gaps in our education system in terms of Black, white race gaps or Native American white race gaps, but why we should be thinking about the Asian American community. Our highest performing students in the state are South Asian students, Chinese students, Vietnamese students, and then white students. Our lowest performing students are not Black students or Native American students, they're Korean refugees, Burmese students. So like home ownership, like healthcare disparities, our education disparity gaps, our largest gaps in the state are between Asian and Asian. And so we really need to be thinking about disaggregating data, understanding where the clear distinctions are, and the solutions for improving our outcomes as Asian people in the state of Minnesota. 3 pieces of legislation I would just like to comment or talk about. One is Ed Allies is a close partner of CAL's on the direct admissions legislation. That's SF 1474. This is an issue. What if you graduated high school and in your email you saw an email that said, you are welcome to 20 colleges in the state of Minnesota? When I was going through high school, I know my mom wanted me to go to college, but I didn't know what that meant, and I didn't even know if I was college material. Kids throughout the state, kids in 25% of our high schools are being told that they're admitted to 20, 30, 40 colleges in the state, and that's because of our direct admissions program. We have 57 colleges in the state that reach out to students that are partnered with these high schools that are enrolled in direct admissions to tell them that they are college material. We want to make that 100% of high schools. So SF 1474 would make all high schools in the state of Minnesota eligible for the direct admissions program. The second issue is algebra standards. There's a bill going around, it's included in the Senate Education Omnibus Bill to eliminate algebra as a standard in the state of Minnesota. Colleges require algebra, so if you're not going to one of those high schools that has algebra, you're not going to be able to access college level math. And we tried this in San Francisco. They pushed back algebra standards for 8th grade. 21% of Asian Americans, or the reduction in AP calculus for Asian Americans dropped by 21% in San Francisco. The same can happen here in Minnesota if we eliminate algebra standards. Asian American community is actually impacted the most in college attendance if algebra standards are removed from our state standards. And then the last thing, we can change all the education policies in the world, but if kids aren't coming to school, none of it really matters. So SF 2882 looks at the problem of chronic absenteeism. About 30% of our kids are considered chronically absent. That means they miss 10% or more of school. This is because, or kids that are considered chronically absent suffer through mental illness, substance abuse, mental distress. And our goal right now is to break the silos between families, schools, districts, counties, state, in order to serve the needs of all of our students. And so I'll end with the 2 specifics around the attendance legislation that's moving forward. One is it improves data and makes sure that attendance data is included in the MCAs. I hope, fingers crossed, we'll one day be able to implement our data disaggregation laws that are on the books. And so I'm hoping that we can disaggregate that attendance data to also include Southeast Asian communities. And the second thing that bill does is it improves the definition of attendance. If you go to one school, you're considered tardy or absent. Another school, that's a different definition altogether. We want to make all the definitions in the state of Minnesota the same so that we can easily compare the data at the end of the day. And so with that, I'm thanking you for having this hearing, and I'll be available or open for any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Executive Director Crossan. So they should learn algebra, right? We're not changing that. So we next up, thank you, Executive Director. Next we have the 18 Plan Council, a representative will come and, present? And as the testifier is making her way up to the podium, we have a group of parents. I think first up I have Me Moi, after that Sheila Her, and then after that Lee Tao. Right. So, ma'am, welcome to the Minnesota State Senate. Please state your name for the record, and you may begin.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the members of the caucus here. I am Dr. Darlene Yang. I am from the Hmong 18 Council, here to represent 100+ Hmong community in Minnesota. Thanks for having me here today. I want to just take this time and kind of ask the legislatures to help us push our bills that we have coming down the pipeline. We have a bill that's going to be for the 50-year celebration. We want to make sure that that is looked at and also approved, if we could. I want to say that it has been 50 years since our settlement in the United States. The Hmong community, traumatized from survival of the Vietnam War, along with the struggle to the U.S. and the struggle to live in the United States. We lost thousands of lives for entry into the United States, and today, to celebrate 50 years in this land, folks are still saying the community, the Hmong community, does not deserve the funds for this celebration. And I attest that and challenge that. We lost thousands of lives. We should be able to celebrate the memories of our fallen soldiers and families and the success of our families. We should be able to celebrate that and what we went through to get here today. So I want to put that on into the legislature's hands to push along for us. Our second bill I want to address is being in the United States. It's going to be for mental health and domestic violence. Being in the United States, the Hmong families struggled with cultural clash, causing majority of the disconnection towards our culture, traditions, and language. Couples struggle with relationship resulting to cases of homicide and suicide, intergenerational disconnection with families leading to youth suicides, with an uprise in our communities. This is all due to the lack of education in mental health and family development. Our community needs to be educated and developed through funded programs so that they can learn to handle trauma and the trauma that they went through from the Vietnam War to the U.S. and the struggles they face every day in the United States. We ask that there is support for our Hmong community with mental health and domestic violence programs. On top of that, I would like to also push a bill that we are writing, a cultural bill to educate and teach the Hmong language, English language, and preserve our Hmong culture with celebrations in a museum and archive center in our new facility, the Hmong Community Center. One more, and that is actually Senator Tu Hyung. Thank you so much for helping us with this one. It is our capital investment bill. We would like to push this along to renovate our Hmong Community Center so that we can open it up for the Hmong and also our neighboring community to use.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Yang, for your presentation. Next, I will open up for Senator Rasmussen to introduce yourself, the district you represent, and a little something about you to introduce you to the community.
Thank you, Chair John, and it's a pleasure to be with everyone today. My name is Jordan Rasmussen, and I represent 5 counties in west central Minnesota, live in Fergus Falls, and I just really appreciate the opportunity to listen and be a part of this conversation. And just want to say, for our Asian Pacific community here today, your story is Minnesota's story, and so I'm really glad that we have some time to hear the opportunities and challenges within your community and to get a chance to listen today. So appreciate the opportunity to include it.
Yeah, thank you, Senator Rasmussen. I know you guys have the pension committee, but you made time to join us. And just for the public to know, this man graduated from Harvard, so he's very, very, very humble to be here with us today. But thank you, Senator Rasmussen, for joining us. And thank you, Dr. Yang, for presenting your slate of legislation. And we look forward to seeing those pushed forward. Next, we have our parent groups. The first testifier is Lee Yang. And then she and her, maybe they can testify together if it's for a group concern. Yeah. So welcome to the University State Capitol. And please state your name and you can each take turns testifying.
We'll do introductions and then kind of.
Yeah, certainly.
Hi, I'm Sheila Hurd, and I have kids at Tukey Lower Campus and Tukey Upper Campus in St. Paul Schools.
Hi, my name is Lee Tao, and like Sheila mentioned, we have children in the district. First and foremost, I just want to say that I'm very, very proud of all of you. And I hope that the idea and the realization never escapes you, because I know that a few of you have been here for years, and so sometimes you're numb to it, but understand that you are the fruition, the realization, and the reality of so many people that have come before you and before all of us. So I hope that you never take that lightly, and you always, always remember that and where you came from. So, and that is the reason why we are here today, because we're here to talk about and represent our children, which is the future, and hopefully someday they'll be sitting in those fancy chairs as well, so I'll let the ladies speak.
So, I'm Mimo. I'm a parent of the district of St. Paul Public School. I'm a student at Suki Upper and a student at Washington. And so we want to kind of bring up the attention to you guys that we are working on the Hmong Project. Hmong Project is a district-wide needs assessment to gather stories and data to establish guideline goals and provide clarity to support the Hmong American Community SPS. In order to accomplish this assessment, the Hmong Project will engage in 3 sectors: the SPS Hmong American Community, Hmong students, staff, and families to understand their goals toward receiving the equitable access they deserve.
Go continue.
The Hmong Project, So the Hmong Project was born out of many inequitable experiences that state public schools among students, among families, and among staff are subjected to in the last few years. The narrative in state public schools of the Hmong community has not changed from what it was 40 plus years ago. The majority of the parents of this generation of SPS students were the students that the district brought up and educated 20, 30, 40 years ago. As parents, we have identified that our needs and the needs of our children are not being met. There is a need to look into the current Hmong American experience and find out how to give this generation an adequate and equitable education, and we are hopeful for collaboration between all stakeholders, including all of you.
Yeah, so we want to appreciate all the work that you guys do, and we want to make sure that, this work that we're doing, it's going to encompass all our Hmong students, and hoping that we have your support as well as we're working with our district to make sure that this happens for our district, because we do hold one of the biggest Hmong population in the district.
Thank you. And then any other testimony from any of you? Members, questions or comments on this? I really appreciate you guys taking the time to come out here. I know maybe Senator Rasmussen can attest to this, but some of these government meetings, they're not the most exciting ones, but this is where the decisions are being made, and this is where you can make the most impact. And so I really appreciate you investing the time for your kids to come here. I always tell parents, they ask me, well, how did you end up going into become a lawyer to go to become a senator? And I said, my mom, maybe she might not be the smartest, most educated, but you know what? She spent time with us. She told us a lot of stories. And so even with the first grade level education, she inspired us to be here. And so you all, I really appreciate. And next time when you come, bring your kids too. And we would love to see them and invite them to sit in our offices upstairs, and so they can feel that too, and get that inspiration from somewhere else. And so really, again, thank you all for taking time to be here. Senator, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I really appreciate you being here. You're present in a lot of your words of encouragement and at the same time your testimony as well. I'm not the best educator out there, although I have a master's degree, but I'm a survivor, and I go through life using just my wit, my street smart ability. Sitting in legislature here, that's my strength. But I just want to question whether either of you, Senator, or actually you, our heritage, or Hmong heritage, either of you sit in education. So that is our lack. We need to get one of our AAPI members to sit in education. I'm not the right member to be in the education committee. I'm more of an arts area and environment area. That's my expertise, but something we have to consider as legislature to have someone be in education. I know the representative her in the House was in education. I don't know if she's still in the education committee.
To the testifier, you have anything else to add?
Yes, thank you so much for listening and for the recommendation. We don't even know anybody in the education community. We know you guys, and that's why we came to you.
Thank you, and Senator Aapi, did you have anything else to add?
Thank you, Senator Small. I just want to say that thank you so much for advocating for your children, as you should. Our schools need to hear us, and unless we're there every day talking about it, they're not going to hear us, and they're not going to take us seriously. I always say it's not just about the first meeting we show up, but it's about the 10th meeting that we're still there. And so just know that you have our support, and if you're going to the next school board meeting and you need us to show up with you, just let us know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And then next up, we have a slate of bill presentations from Cal, and I wanted to give you and your organization that opportunity. I want to give you the stage and see if you have any body that you want to call up to present. Executive Director Tommy.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to ask Greg King to come up, and the rest of my time I'm going to defer to the public.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. King, welcome to the Minnesota State Senate. Just before the testifier begins, we have a hard stop at 8 o'clock here at the state capitol, as we have security responsibilities, and we have to really be out here by 8 o'clock. And so, Mr. King, welcome to the Minnesota State Capitol. Please begin with your testimony.
Thank you, Chairman, and all the senators, and Tommy for the invitation. My name is Greg King. I am a lifelong Minnesotan, but a second-generation Filipino-American. I am a proud board member of the Philippine Center of Minnesota, performer with the Cultural Society of Filipino Americans, and the co-founder of Philippine Extra-Immigrant Rights, Social Justice Minnesota. But today I'm speaking as a citizen advocate for immigrant rights and leader in CAL. Where I represent CAL is in the North Star Alliance, which is a coalition of over 60 organizations of immigrant rights, faith community, labor unions, and municipalities who are working together to support legislation that protects our immigrant neighbors from unrestricted federal overreach into state and local government, so we can all live with safety, dignity, and respect. I'm here to bring your attention to some bills. Unfortunately, this session, we are working to oppose bills that are targeting our immigrant communities and attempting to put them into a second-class status. These bills fall into two categories, one of which are bills which would strip away protections of data privacy, protections of due process from people because of their status. The other bucket of bills are bills which would deny people access to services and programs for which they are currently eligible on the basis of immigration status. And there's a one-pager that Tommy can help me share with all of you that I didn't have time to print out. You already heard about Senate File 643 from Transforming Generations, which would put all of our community members at risk, not only for accessing law enforcement resources if they're victims, but from simply bringing their children to school or using a county hospital or even a public library to check out a book, because it would allow for unrestricted data sharing with the federal government simply on the basis of immigration status. We know that access to all of these systems make our communities thrive and we're safe, and that this bill is not about safety, but really about creating fear and attempting to get immigrant communities to not use systems to which we're all eligible. There are similar bills that would deny people due process, Senate File 320, for instance, or collect unnecessary data, which make our community members targets for, unfortunately, this very active anti-immigrant federal government, such as Senate File 38. We are opposing those bills because our community members, our Minnesotans, deserve to know that our state resources are there to protect and support them, and are not data collection agencies for immigration and customs enforcement. We know that this data, when it's in the hands of this government, makes people less safe, even if they have status. We've already heard stories of people being targeted who have permanent residency. Similarly, bills that would deny people access to programs such as Minnesota Care and scholarship programs on the basis of immigration status, such as Senate File 690, need to be opposed because we know that providing access to those programs make us all
more safe. And in general, there's two final thoughts I'll give you. We need to make sure that we're not putting people into second-class status, at least in the state of Minnesota, on the basis of their immigration, because that second-class status is not only harmful to our communities, but harmful to the economic future of our state, which needs those workers. I know because we're importing many Filipino visa holders to work in our healthcare and education industries right now. And secondly, and finally, I will say that these bills are all based on the presumption of criminality by immigrants, particularly the undocumented. You and I know that's not true, but many Minnesotans don't. And if we pass bills that deny services or due process simply on the basis of immigration status because of the presumption of criminality, it makes us all less safe, including my 80-year-old mother. You know, a racist that sees someone they perceive to be an immigrant on the street doesn't stop to check status. When we send mass amounts of data to a federal government that's actively targeting people, even with status, it also makes us less safe. My community are not victims, they're not criminals, they're Minnesotans like yours, and they're here to do the work of Minnesota. And for that reason, I'd urge you to oppose any bills that try to put them into the shadows, take away their rights, and deny them access to programs that we all deserve. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Mr. King, for your presentation. Members, any questions or comments for Mr. King? Well, thank you, Mr. King, for your presentation. Next up, sorry, I skipped this person. It was Principal B. Vang. I know you were supposed to be number 2, but I totally skipped it. Principal B. Vang, welcome to the Minnesota State Senate. I apologize for missing you. I did call you a second, but sorry. Principal B. Vang, welcome. Please state your name for the record, and you may begin.
That's okay, Senator Shaw. You can take me for a bowl of fun. Good evening, Mr. Chair, committee members. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Viva, a principal in St. Paul Public Schools. As our legislators, you craft well-versed, well-intended policies to ensure our students receive the best possible education. We are grateful for them. However, many of these policies lack resources. To be candid, it lacks substantial financial backing to implement and hold districts accountable to the implementation of these policies with the fidelity to truly address the needs of all students. What continues to concern my colleagues and I, and those of us who have dedicated our whole careers to the work that centers the achievement of the students, we face challenges that just adequately sustain programs and services we know our students deserve. Hmong students across the Twin Cities make up one of the largest, if not the largest group of Asian students, of whom are majority native-born students now. These students are still categorized as LTELs or long-term ELs, or English learners. Our disaggregated data does not tell us that Hmong students are doing well. In fact, the numbers of LTELs are alarming in our school districts, and it tells the story that our current students may be considered worse off than their predecessors, us, the first wave of refugee students in the U.S. In light of us reaching the 50th year since the Hmong diaspora from Southeast Asia, we want to acknowledge that we have come far, but let's also challenge ourselves to reflect on whether or not we've come far enough. To go further, we need to make sure we understand where the problem lies and what the needs are to go this distance. Senator Hurd, you asked earlier, what can be done to not leave students behind? How can you design policies to be more inclusive? Money, right? Sounds like common sense. In my district, policy dictates that we must provide language instruction educational program. For our districts, that translates into providing EL services to students who are still categorized as ELs because they are unable to be exited from services by their test scores, even if they've been an EL since the day they started school. Because districts are not fully funded for EL services, according to this policy, maximum years of funding is 7. We are charged with having to subsidize EL services for our ELs throughout their whole educational experience as LTELs For many else, that can be up to 10 or 12 years. This lack of funding does not do our students any justice by these policies and does not make our work to implement these policies any easier. As I am immersed in the challenging task to balance my school's fiscal year 26 budget, I leave you with this thought and urge you to seriously consider this when writing policies for education. Include substantial funding so the work you all envision in your policies can be done by us. As a matter of fact, while you're all wanting to help, let's urgently push to increase the per pupil funding from 13-something thousand to fully support all the educational needs of our students of today. Again, thank you.
Thank you, Principal Vang, for your testimony. We appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today. Next up, we have Jean Lee on the testifier list. Jean Lee in the center of pie, you ready to go? All right, to the testifier, please state your name for the record and you may proceed.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the MAP, thank you for this opportunity. I'm Jean Lee, President and Executive Director of Children's Home International, which is a legal advocacy group and does public policy. Our family centers, there are private shelters. We're the first Asian shelter and the first one to do services like CY and CAPI for the Asian community. We have over 40 years of advocacy in the Asian community. And I want to thank you for all your work over the years helping the Asian community as far as all their different needs. I wanted to speak to two areas where, being a former corporate auditor, we still see the need. Some of you are familiar with what they call the Asian Pacific American Cultural Center that took 10 years to go through the legislature all the way to the governor's office and was still rejected for funding. We saw the Hmong Cultural Center as far as regrouping and doing it on their own, and we urge that you give them the kind of support they need to get that through versus what happened to the Asian Cultural Center that was supported by the Council of Asian Pacific American Minnesotans. The second issue is, if you've seen in a lot of publicity, there have been development by Asians of the Asian Mall in Eden Prairie, the Sears redevelopment, and the Pan-Asian Mall in Maplewood. There was talk of doing some development of the
All right, Ms. Lee, we have to get out of here in
Yes.
3 minutes. Could you please wrap up? And we have a couple of testifiers that still needs to go.
Okay. The point I'm saying is, although the SBA and SCORE provide certain free training for them, what we saw during the pandemic was that there was a need for technical training of Asian entrepreneurs, and we want to see them successful because these are big projects, and we don't want the public to see them fall on their face and say, well, you know, they didn't know what they were doing or whatever. So I think it's within the legislature to help them make it all the way through so that they are successful and they are the showcases, the Sears development, the Maplewood Mall, and some of these other efforts that they're doing. So that's all I'm asking. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The next testifier we have is Tuojong and Stephen Tao from the Pan-Asian Mall that will be looking to open up in Maplewood. Welcome to the Minnesota State Senate. To the testifiers, please state your name for the records and you may begin.
Thank you tonight. For tonight, I know that we only have a few minutes here, so I'll keep it simple here. My name is Stephen Tao. I'm a CEO of Create Results, residential real estate for the last 21 plus years, servicing our community here, as well as a commercial developer. Tonight, I'm here to actually represent Pan-Asian Center. It's actually Pan-Asian Center, not Pan-Asian Mall, with my visionary partner, Mr. Tuojong, here sitting right next to me here. The Pan-Asian Center is a huge movement in which we have already acquired 2 properties. One is the former Sears, and one is the Macy's, right at the heart of Maplewood. We created all those two properties, and the object or the goal is to actually create a mixed, diverse atmosphere, environment, and turn that into a destination site, a center, in which will foster small businesses, help small entrepreneurs grow in all sectors, from entertainment to arts and craft, all throughout across, indoors and outdoors, allowing the opportunity for anyone out there to use for workshops, seminars, and events, and also still provide outdoors such as farmers markets, street food markets, and Asian night markets. Again, we have already acquired 2 properties that we're on the stages of doing construction. Me and my partner Tua here, we are little guys with small pockets. Everything we're doing is out of pocket, as well as the contribution and help of our friends, family, and throughout our peer groups throughout many years here. We are asking and seeking for your consideration to see if you can help us with a bill or 2 for opportunities to help with fundings for improvements, as well as to help with operational costs, which we will do a lot of job creations throughout across. The word I'll just give to you. We have just go ahead.
All right, to the next testifier, Mr. Tojan. Please state your name for the record and you may begin.
Hello, my name is Tua Xiong. I am the owner of the Motown Marketplace. We'll be saying some words. So I am a son of a former CIA allies and during the Vietnam War. Being a victim, that they say with true from Laos, I happened to be led to the jungle with their father, and then for 4 years in the jungle, hardship, coming to Thailand, living in Thailand camp for 7 years, coming to the United States in 1986, learning from A, B, C, D, and E, public assistance, working really, really hard, $8, $9 an hour as a master's degree. Now, savings dollar up, and we come to Motown Marketplace. So we have been incubating a lot of businesses, a lot of people that do not have the opportunity to go to school, get educated, get employed with good dollars so that they can send their kids to school. And the Motown Marketplace has been incubating, has been enabling a lot of parents who are not having the opportunity, enabling for them to go to take their kids to schools. And now we have a lot of doctors and lawyers. Moving to the Maplewood Mall, not only that we have purchased the Macy's and the Sears. The Macy's, by the way, just got purchased about 3 days ago. And now we also have a contract for the whole Maplewood Mall as well. So by June, if we are successful in acquiring the whole Maplewood Mall, we will be having over 727,000 square feet and 59 acres. So with that being said, we'll be offering a lot of job opportunities. We're estimating over 2,000 jobs, and economic value bringing foot traffic back to the Maplewood Mall area. Economic value on an annual basis is about $150 million. So that will be helping a lot of dining malls, and we're bringing foot traffic back to the mall again. So we are going to be preparing a package, and we're coming here. Like he said earlier, we are just former refugees, and we need a lot of help. Whatever you and at the state level or the city level can do to help us out. This is about economic development, whether it's job funding, whether it's job creation, workforce training, whatever you have, bring our way. We would be very, very appreciated. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Zhang, Mr. Tao, for your presentation. And we are looking forward to the grand opening that you guys will have for us. And so with that, security is here. We have to leave, but Senator Pai give the mic to you. And then after that, Senator
Xiong, thank you, Chair Xiong. I just wanted to do some closing remarks to thank everyone for coming tonight. Especially, I want to just do a shout out to Hmong TV, who is our Hmong media, who shows up all the time to make sure that the people who are not present in the room can still get the message and get the information out. So thank you so much. And thank you everyone for coming today. I'm just going to go ahead and hand it over to Senator Xiong and Senator Hurd.
Senator?
I'm glad to hear the testimony from the Motown Connection and the Pan Asian Center. With the project with this magnitude, I think it will take heavy lifting and take all of us to be part of it, not just I have met with Steve Tao and Mr. Sean, and I put a bill very quickly, but that's just a statement bill, but it's gonna take a step back, and like let the horse carry the cart instead of the cart carry the horse. But it will take city effort, it will take county effort, and our joint effort here in the House and Senate, maybe include the governor too. And this is not just for Asian only, even though we have an Asian name. The Maplewood Mall itself have relied on government subsidy before. A lot of commercial entity rely on government system before, but we just don't know because it's maybe outside our culture. But now we are in a position to make change, to make things happen. So we will lend you a hand, but we have to be in sync together and sync so that we can contribute to this magnitude project that you created that will create jobs and workforce development and so forth. It's a big role that you contribute here. Again, I thank the media, thank all of you being here, thank the media. I also noticed Better Tomorrow Media too is here as well. So I want to include that along with Mom TV.
All right, well, thank you all to the public. For those that have testimony that you also wanted to share to us, you're more than free to write to us, and we will pass out that information to others. And again, thank you to Cal for helping us organize this. And with that, we are adjourned.